Hello, my name is Joanne, and I'm just so delighted to be here today in our beautiful Pat Carfa setting. It is just the best of being in Victoria. My story today is called How My Cat Roberta Got Her Name. The story begins with me letting you know that I am a very, very, very big cat lover. One of the cats that is so special to me is my cat Chester. He was with me for 18 years and was just a delight. When Chester reached the natural end of his life, it was, of course, a very sad time. However, at that very same time, I had the opportunity to be a volunteer on a hospital ship in Africa, providing free surgeries to people in need there. Now, while I was over in Africa, I can tell you that I really missed being in the company of cats because there are virtually no cats there. Pets are not a thing in Africa as yet. In fact, I miss cats so much that I made a point of ordering a toy stuffed tiger from Amazon, which then was delivered to the Mercy Ship's head office in Texas and shipped over to me on a container. So I did have a cat to keep me company while I was in Africa. When I returned, I resettled out here in beautiful Victoria. And wouldn't you know it, the only condo that I could find in my budget range that I wanted to buy was a condo in a no pets building. Oh my goodness, more time without a cat. Well, never to be daunted, I decided to solve that problem by taking up cat sitting. Well, I quickly discovered that cat sitting is a very high demand pursuit here in Victoria. And in short order, I had a wonderful customer, Andrea and Richard, caring for their dear cat Charlie. After I had been doing that with Andrea and Richard for a few months, they asked me if I would be willing to consider caring for their brother Robert's cat, Dougie. Robert, you see, was a very busy businessman. He owned a large seafood company. He was often on the road for business, and he also had a real passion for fly fishing, so he was often on the rivers and oceans doing his fly fishing. Robert turned out to be my best customer. I spent a great deal of many happy hours with his beautiful Dougie. And in addition to that, Robert is the kind of fellow who just does not hesitate to extend a hand of friendship. When Robert was in town, I can recall so many wonderful occasions of being invited over for dinner, for having wonderful visits, for enjoying these incredible meals that he would cook. But more importantly about my friendship with Robert was how he made me feel. He would continually remind me that I was a very beautiful person, that I was a very appealing and wonderful woman, and that I should always remember to bring out the best in myself because there was so much for me to share. Now, I had been living a life quite invisible up to that point. And it was Robert who inspired my courage and my confidence, which has led me on a path of really releasing the performer inside myself. Storytelling, stand-up comedy, singing. I love to be a performer, and that would not have ever been sparked in me had it not been for Robert's kindness in telling me that I had great beauty and appeal to display. Sadly, as life often happens, there was a situation that put a real wedge between Robert and I. So our friendship was really on the sidelines. And while I missed that greatly, fate also found me the path to a condo that would allow me to have cats. 2 cats. Well, in short order, I began the hunt for a cat. But it was the height of COVID, and there were no cats to be found. Not to be daunted, I decided I am going to offer up my services as a volunteer to foster rescue cats that didn't have a permanent home and needed to live somewhere temporarily while they were made calm, while their fears were allayed, while they felt love and socialization. I couldn't wait to be a foster volunteer. And on March 27th, 2021, my phone rang. Joanne, please come and pick up your foster cat. I raced down to the assembly area, and in amongst all of these cat carriers was the carrier for me. I looked inside, and there in the carrier was the most beautiful blue-eyed Siamese cat. I looked at the coordinator and I said, in all honesty, you are never going to see this cat again. I immediately adopted that beautiful blue-eyed Siamese, and I named her Josephina Conrad, Connie for short. A couple of weeks later, Connie, who's nicely settled in, and I head to the vet because Connie's going to have her spay. After an examination, the vet looks at me and says, I think your cat, Connie, is expecting kittens. An ultrasound was quickly arranged, and sure enough, the heartbeat of 2 kittens. Well, that was quite a surprise, but what a delight. We were now going to have kittens. Back home, we wait, and 4 weeks later, I wake up in the morning and I look on the carpet, and oh my goodness, my heart breaks. There is a stillborn kitten. Oh no. Well, I know there were 2, so I quickly rush Connie to the vet hospital. They induce her, and sure enough, the second kitten is born. But it too is stillborn. Well, after all of the joy and delight, the crashing sadness, the crashing sorrow, friends and family were inconsolable. We feel so bad for dear Connie. It is not a happy time. Then, 2 days later, I'm still very concerned about Connie. She seems to be sleeping a lot under the covers on my bed, so I lift up the covers just to make sure she's okay. And what do I see before my very eyes but the most wiggly, squiggly little orange kitten? And then, as I'm just exclaiming to myself, another kitten. Connie has birthed her 2 live kittens. Well, if ever there was a 180 change in mood, I was jubilant. Of course, I was burning up the telephone wires and the emails. We have kittens! We have kittens! I quickly had to arrange a little birthing area on my bed for the kittens and Connie initially, and then I really had to scramble to find a spot, a way for the kittens to be contained but still have freedom of movement. That's when I thought, well, even though Bob and I are estranged, Robert and I are estranged, I'm hoping he will see his way through to contributing to my dear little kittens this incredible salmon box, very sturdy, 6 feet tall, 3 feet by 3 feet, that I knew if I cut in half would make a perfect little kitten condo. Bob has a heart of gold, and I ended up with a very sturdy, wonderful salmon box. I cut it in half. I put the 2 halves together. I cut a little hole for the girls to be able to run back and forth in their condo, and we were set. It was beautiful, and it was perfect for Connie because all she had to do was to jump in and out anytime she wanted to be with her kittens. It was a beautiful time, and there was only one job left. The second kitten was destined to go to a new home because I was only allowed to have 2 cats. But that meant I was going to have a kitten, and that meant that kitten needed a name. Now, what would I name that kitten? Well, the kitten that I was going to name reminded me of an experience I had had when I was a volunteer in Africa. And I had befriended a family whose boy was in the Africa Mercy Hospital ship for 2 months. Dad was tending to him because Mom was back in the village. She was expecting a baby, and so she had to stay with the rest of the family. And during those 2 months, I did everything I could to help the family. I made sure they had food. I made sure they had all of their bills paid. I made sure that Dad had a cell phone so he could contact Mom whenever he wanted to. One day, through my translator, Dad called me aside, and he said, "Joanne, we have wonderful news. My wife has given birth to a baby girl. And we want you to know that, as is the tradition here in Africa, we like to name our children after someone we want them to be just like. And so, we have named our new little girl Joanne." Well, you can imagine the honor I felt in having a little one named after me. And it's something that has been so special in my heart since that very time. And that made me realize that I already knew the name that I was going to be giving to my little kitten. I am calling my little kitten Roberta. And so, Roberta is indeed very much like her namesake, Robert. She is a kind and caring and generous cat. And as well, like her namesake, Robert, she loves fish.